explain. Oh, okay. So why don't you go ahead and just explain your hearing loss and the etiology of it?
Okay. So I was born in Nashville, Tennessee, in 1994. So it was around the time where infant newborn hearing screenings were not protocol. So I kind of fell under the radar, and I was about 18 months old before my parents started picking up on a few things, and it was my uncle who actually kind of told my dad. He was like, I don't think Jessie knows her name because she's not responding when we call to her. And my dad was just so competitive. He was like, no, she knows her name. So my parents like to tell the story that I was sitting in the living room and I was just playing with my Barbie dolls while my aunts and uncles and my grandparents were just surrounding me, like calling out my name, and I wasn't responding. And then my grandfather was the one who decided to grab some pots and pans, and he went to this overhead landing, this balcony that kind of overlooked our living room, and started banging them. And I didn't flinch, I didn't react in any way, and that's when my parents realized, okay, something else is going on. And so we went to Vanderbilt Hospital, the Bill Wilkerson Center, and that has just been a second home to me growing up. And they diagnosed me with profound hearing loss in one ear and then severe hearing loss in the other. And I got tubes. I had tubes placed in both my ears, which drained a lot of fluid and brought my hearing loss in one ear down to severe. So it's bilateral sensorineural severe hearing loss. And my parents said that I was the first in my family who was born with hearing loss. So this was very new for my entire family. They had no idea exactly like this. They had no idea how to approach this or what had happened exactly. So Vanderbilt did some research on it and found that it was just simply genetics. The cilia in my ears, I believe, is like next to non-existent, and so there's no stimulation in my ear canal. And so my parents, it's basically just like a gene from my mom's DNA and a gene from my dad's DNA combined, just kind of created the hearing loss gene. And so my brother, he was born about 2 years later, and they did a hearing screening for him and found that he also had hearing loss. So definitely genetic, and ever since I've just been wearing hearing aids my entire life. But yeah.
You said it was 18 months before all that happened? Do you feel like that affected anything that it was found kind of later, or what was that like?
I want to say it wasn't too much later. If anything, it might have been like a year to 18 months. I'm always fuzzy on exactly what it was. But I definitely think my speech was affected. I mean, I think it's always been affected, no matter how early it would have been caught on. But I think, if anything, if it had been caught on later, I've noticed, like, with some of my friends who hearing loss wasn't caught until very much later on, they have much better abilities in lip reading. Like, they had to rely on that for a much longer period, whereas my lip reading skills are, I have to have some noise to associate with it. But, yeah, I don't think it's, I think I was blessed that they caught it when they did.
Okay.
But I want to say, I think it's just my speech that's always kind of been affected, no matter when they would have caught it. It's just my S's aren't as clear. My L's could be a little bit sharper, but yeah.
Right. Now, is that something, did you, like, do speech therapy for that, or?
Yes, I went to the Mommy Lear Hearing School, as a child, like a toddler. It was a toddler program, and then Janine was my speech therapist, like, my entire life, until, I guess, right before middle school, for myself and my brother, and I would love that. I mean, just, like, playing different games, and just, Janine was like I want to say she was kind of like part of the family to me, so it was really cool that, I don't know, I just never associated with her as, like, any kind of medical, like, identity. It was just more like she was a friend that we went to visit every now and then, so it was really cool.
Yeah. Okay, so, and you kind of touched on this, but explain your amplification now and through the years. So, hearing aids or whatever you use.
Yeah. I was I think when I was diagnosed, I was fitted for hearing aids right away. My parents never saw cochlear implants as a serious option for us, so we stuck with hearing aids and haven't regretted it and never looked back. My brother and I both wear hearing aids, and I've always worn over the ear, behind the ear, and full shell. And it wasn't until recently that I decided to try just an in the canal shell, and I went from like acrylic to plastic. I've used different brands, Phonak, Oticon, Resound. I'm wearing Resound now, and I love them. I think the technology just gets better and better every year, and it's really cool to see that. Awesome. I get to kind of connect Bluetooth to my hearing aids and listen to my phone music. My phone calls go directly to my hearing aids. No one else has to like hear them because I always used to turn the phone up all the way up. It was like it was on speaker for everybody else, but for me it was just a normal sound level. So it's nice to have like that discretion back and that privacy back. But
what about alarms? Does that go straight to your hearing aid too?
Yeah, exactly. So I'll be on the other side of the room, like talking to a friend, and my phone is like in the opposite corner, and then suddenly the alarm goes off, and I have to be just like interrupt them like the rudest person in the world, and just be like, I'm so sorry, I can't hear anything but this alarm right now. I'm so sorry. Let me go get it taken care of. And one of my friends was like, I just thought you had super hearing. You know, like, no, it just like goes straight to my hearing aids. I wish. No. But yeah.
That's funny. Okay, so I guess you kind of mentioned this with the Bluetooth, but do you use any assistive technology?
I use an alarm clock that shakes my bed, so it's called the Sonic Boom, and it's aptly named. It's definitely generates a louder alarm sound, but I don't like to use the sound because I don't like I get up either really early in the morning or I don't like it to bother my other roommates or maybe living above or below me or right beside me. Right. So I always use just the vibration system. And it's basically just kind of an attachment that you slide under your mattress or under your pillow, and it just kind of shakes the whole bed, and it's really nice. Also, my Fitbit.
I could use that.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I don't know. I used an FM system once, and I wasn't crazy about it. It was something about it that just didn't feel authentic enough for me. It was just kind of disconnected somehow for me. I never really could adjust to it. But yeah, I think the only assistive devices that I really relied on a lot are the alarm clock. It's given me a sense of like independence. I don't have to rely on anyone else to wake me up, which I did like from like birth to middle school. That my parents were the ones who woke us up, and then my brother and I got the alarm clocks in high school, and we were like, all right, we got this.
This is it.
Yeah.
Okay, so how has like your hearing loss affected your life, and how has it affected the lives of those around you?
I want to say, I feel like I was very blessed compared to other people whose stories I've heard. While I was the first person in my family to be born with hearing loss, to have exposed all of them to this, they really rallied around me. I had an incredible support system in my family. They were at every speech therapy appointment, every audiology appointment, ENT appointment, just really rallied around me. Even my grandparents, my grandmother told me that my granddad was like, if we have to sell our house, we'll sell our house. And my grandmother, being the realistic one, was like, no. But we also, my aunt, she's like a second mother to me, my Aunt Cynthia, she, my mom told me that she went to the Green Hills Public Library and just literally checked out every single book on hearing loss, hearing aids, like everything. Wow. And because she's the kind of person who just like equips herself with knowledge to like really be able to help out. And I don't know, it's just really cool hearing those stories and how my family has just always been my rock when it comes to this. And they've never allowed me to take any challenge and look at it as like use my hearing aids as an excuse to like not be able to go after something I want to do, or maybe like see a challenge as something too big for me to handle. I've always been really fortunate to have encouragers who have told me like, yes, there are going to be obstacles, but we can always work around it. We can always figure something out and improvise. So yeah, I think the way it's affected my life, I I was never bullied in school. I was very fortunate for that. My friends have always been so encouraging, so understanding of it. I've never had anyone who treated me differently due to them. If anything, it's always just been kind of a personal thing. If I was ever in a situation like a large social group setting, like a restaurant setting, it's always been more of a strain. Trying to listen to everyone, trying to pick up on all of these different conversations when there's so much background noise, and it kind of feels like you're hit from all sides, all this noise. And a lot of my friends, sometimes they would tell me, like, looking back, they'd be like, we just kind of thought you were quiet, you know, like in the cafeteria, I wouldn't talk. I'd spend the entire time like trying to focus on listening to everyone else's conversations and making sure that I could kind of follow what they were saying, and it just never gave me enough time or energy to like actually input information and like, contribute to the conversation. I've always been really good about like one-on-one situations. That's where I thrive, and I love social settings. I thrive on like being around people that I love and enjoy spending time with. But sometimes it does get a little, the way it affects my life, it does get a little exhausting, and it can be a little frustrating. But it's always been something that's reminded me that this is my lot in life, and it's something that God gave me because He knew I could handle it. So yeah,
cool. And so. And again, you kind of touched on this with kind of just having to focus and when you're in group settings so you can follow and everything. But so how do you cope when you can't hear something? Like, what are your coping mechanisms when that happens?
First, I try to use the settings on my hearing aids. Like, if there's a program setting that kind of eliminates background noise, I try to use that. But if the acoustics in the room itself aren't great, like if the sound is still bouncing off the walls and reflecting back in front of me, I just simply have to really focus on their lips too, and just make sure if something's being directed at me, like I'm focusing right at them. And I try to make everyone aware of, like, if I can't hear something, I'll just ask them to repeat themselves. And a lot of my friends, all of them really, they know exactly what I deal with. They know if I can't hear something, they'll speak up. And I'm trying to think. I try to just kind of take a look at the scenario and try to plan it around, like, okay, why don't we sit outside this beautiful day, like, it's a little bit quieter. And I always say that too. I'm like, would y'all mind like sitting outside where it's quieter? And they've always been so incredible to do that. Or I just kind of sit in a spot where I can block out all the background noise and I'm not like facing all of the noise. So I try to strategize around it too. But if I find myself, sometimes I try not to think of myself as a burden when I have to ask someone to repeat themselves too many times, because I do feel rude sometimes. But it's always been just kind of a reminder of the people that God's blessed me with in my life, who are so encouraging, so understanding, and just never really like see it as a frustration or a burden as well. So yeah.
Did you ever have you ever used sign language or ever thought about? Because you don't have a full loss, but like, what was your take on that?
I just never had the need to learn sign language because of my use of hearing aids, but I've always had an interest in learning. I've always I spent a couple of weeks over the summer one year helping out with a sign language camp. Like, I was the only I was on the teaching staff, or just the volunteer teaching staff, and everyone else was deaf, and sign language was their first language. And I just was very immersed in the culture. We were teaching hearing children sign language, and it was a really cool camp, really cool concept, and it was really awesome just being able to expose them to the deaf culture that way. And so I've taken classes, but it's always been one of those things where if I don't keep at it, like, I learn it so quickly, but if I'm not immersed in it, if I'm not like using it all the time, like, I lose it just as quickly. But it's always been a life goal of mine to keep after it, learn more about it, and because I love the language, I do, and it's really wonderful. I've always been a hands-on person anyway. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, if there's one thing, this is the last question, if there's one thing you wish people could understand about hearing loss and your experience, what would it be?
I think just in this class in general, there's been a lot of times where I've just kind of like thought, wow, yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is like the self-concept, like social settings have definitely been harder for us, I think, just in the way that like there's our side to every social situation, but then they're perceiving it differently. So if like we're quiet in a social situation, it's not typically because we don't want to engage in the conversation or we don't want to or we're not social ourselves. Sometimes it's more just like, yeah, we're putting all of this energy into it and we're trying so hard to keep up with the conversation. So I guess it's one of those things where it's like, just don't ever stop trying to understand like where we're coming from, I guess. And I've never been exposed to anyone who wouldn't do that. So I feel like it's not a message that I have, that like, I feel like I need to get out, but I guess just telling everyone, just like, be patient with us. We are trying so hard. And yeah, I guess thank you for being patient with us, those who have already. And I don't know, it's an everyday, not struggle, but it's an everyday thing where one day at a time we're like faced with a different challenge and we just kind of take it as we can. And yeah, we just ask for patience, I guess.
For sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.